Hello, everyone. Welcome. I'm here with Lydia Sugarman. Welcome, Lydia.
Hi, Peter. How are you?
Good. I want you to be able to tell a little bit about yourself to the audience and the listeners. A little bit about yourself.
Well, that's kind of hard to boil down, but
Well,
I,
try to do it in a section. I guess you could say
yeah.
snippets.
So, um, so going all the way back, I grew up on a farm in Kentucky, and then moved to New York, where I enjoyed living for a long time, living in Manhattan, and now I'm in San Francisco, where I've been for a dozen years. I'm an entrepreneur. I started out as my entrepreneurial trajectory in New York in January 2001, actually. And I started out as an email marketing consultant, and became a solution provider because I thought email was the greatest thing since sliced bread. I still think it is an incredible technology, incredibly useful, and a great complement to everything, to all of the social media.
Now, what was in your entrepreneurial path? What was the hardest thing that you have found that have came across in your entrepreneur path to overcome?
Uh, it's a constant struggle. It's that internal voice, that internal conversation that you have. It's a running conversation that's every day, and sometimes you're telling yourself you're doing great and you're really good at what you do, and other days it's quite the opposite. And I think that's one of the most difficult things that everybody deals with, but it's particularly critical for entrepreneurs who a lot of times are working solo, or if you do have employees or a team. If you're the founder, if you're the CEO, it's really, really lonely. There's sometimes no one that you feel like there's someone that you can talk to about uh, things that are on your mind, that you need, questions that you need answered, or just talking about your feelings. So to close the circle, it's the internal conversation that we have with ourselves all the time. I think that's the hardest thing to
Do,
manage.
do you think in the workplace that we need to be talking more or less about our feelings?
Oh, geez. I, you know, I, I'm a big fan of keeping personal and professional lives separate.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, and I think that if the feelings are related to a specific work situation, if there might be some interpersonal uh, challenges that are getting in the way of your performance or others' performance, then then you've got to have that conversation. You've got to you've got to clear things up and make sure that everybody feels good, everybody's on the same page, and everybody's aligned to work toward a common goal. Otherwise, I think you need to leave certain things outside the door when you go to work.
It's interesting because it seems that there is a conversation that is happening nationwide that is trying to bring the feeling into the workplace that we're not kind of a revolt of we're not a bunch of robots. So it's kind of an interesting concept of, well, do you actually do that?
No.
Because business is, the concept of business is to make a profit. It's about getting as much as you can out of your business for the most part, right?
Right.
And if you want to help and make an impact, it is said to you go and start a nonprofit. So people are trying to merge maybe the two together, and they're, trying to make a difference and an impact in their entrepreneur business, but also make a profit. And there's some conversations happening around that. So that's why I asked that question is.
Yeah. I mean, you could ask me again, and I could give you a different answer, because we spend more time if we are in a workplace and with other of the company and with other employees, and not working distantly, we spend more time with those people than we do with our family members, actually. And it's natural to bring in to talk about our personal lives. I think, and I do understand that understanding each other as coworkers, as colleagues, is important, and it's important to be seen as a whole person. On the other hand, sometimes we might share too much, and that might not be a good idea. We have to. It's how much do you want to share of yourself, and how much do you want other people to share with you? And I think you have to have that conversation.
I'm talking to
sometimes somebody can ask you about something, and you think it's really, it's prying, it's nosy. Am I going off on the wrong tangent here?
No. I think it's a good point. Why do you think? Because this is the question that people have, that's on people's minds, because they're looking at it. I'm disposable, and my company wants me to be a robot, or I need to be a robot as an entrepreneur and make the most profits, and then go home and try not to be a robot. And there's a lot of people that are unhappy with their jobs, or even with their own businesses. They're unhappy. What do you think that is?
We're not robots, and you have to treat people with consideration and kindness. And I just read something on LinkedIn this morning, and commented on it. It was actually a video that had been posted by Richard Branson, talking, and it was a transsexual person who was talking about seeing each other, seeing and accepting and welcoming and including transsexuals in the workplace. And, the conversation, as often happens, kind of got off track about the basic topic, which is treating your colleagues with respect and consideration and kindness. That is, you're seeing that other person, you're as a person, and not just as a cog. And unfortunately, there are a lot of people who are running companies who will, I guess, to protect themselves, or because they don't know how to do it otherwise, treat people as being disposable, and that's wrong. I think I think ultimately they'll fail. We just saw thousands of Googlers go out on strike because all over the world, because Google was not addressing sexual harassment properly in their estimation. You don't want to have to go out on strike. You want to be able to collaborate and cooperate. And I don't think that, whether it's a for-profit or non-profit entity makes a difference. At the end of the day, it's about people it's about people engaging with other people in a meaningful way.
It's H2H, right? Human to contact. I mean, human to human. It's not human.
Yeah.
It's not robot to human. It's human to human. It's always interesting when you go on the phone and you're waiting on you're clicking through the buttons. It's so frustrating when it says press 1, press 2, press 1, press 5, because you're like, I want to talk to a human being. I do not want to be talking to a computer or robot.
Please listen, because our the extensions have recently changed. No, they haven't. Update that message and give me something that's a little that's more relevant. I had the same experience with a chatbot recently, and it's actually a company that sells chatbot technology. And I had some very specific questions, and the chatbot couldn't answer those. And I kept asking, I just want to speak to a person. Can someone please just call me? And ultimately I got the message, we're not set up to do that. We're not set up to talk to you. Do you think I might ever do business with them? Probably not. It's really good technology. They're really, really successful. But if you can't pick up the phone, and I know that's an issue. I'm not a millennial, by the way. I'm a baby boomer, and but I test out as a millennial when I take those online tests. Anyway, there's a lot of people now who think you don't have to pick up the phone, who think you don't have to have in-person meetings, who think that, chatbots and help buttons and texts are sufficient. And it just isn't. Ultimately, I think people are left feeling empty and invisible, not seen, and again, not respected. It all goes back to respecting people, giving consideration, being kind.
Now, what's your definition of happiness?
Wow, that's big. It gets to be pretty simple. Having your basic needs met. Do I have a roof over my head? Do I have food on the table? Can I pay my bills? Am I healthy? And after that, everything else is kind of a bonus.
What do you think people get wrong about mindset? Because happiness, you could have certain things in your life, but they're still telling themselves privately certain stories. What do you think they get wrong about mindset?
I think I think a lot of people are looking, particularly today, but it's always, it's always been about the Joneses, the old expression, keeping up with the Joneses. And social media, television has been, all of the media is to blame for giving us unrealistic expectations, and that ultimately is going to leave people unsatisfied, dissatisfied, and unhappy because they're going to think that they aren't doing as well, aren't as successful as, don't have as much stuff as, don't have, as the Joneses next door or on the other side of the world, when, and then, there, it's been, this has been sold a lot. Well, I deserve it. And that's and used as a rationalization for conspicuous consumption, or even going into I deserve such and such. I deserve a 4-carat diamond engagement ring. Well, why? Why? Why do you deserve that?
So you think people get wrong, what they get wrong is, just to clarify, is maybe entitlement, the mindset of entitlement?
Oh, yes. Yes, it is. There's a lot of entitlement it's kind of an epidemic, I think, in this country anyway.
Yeah, it's hard to think about the idea that just not even 100 years ago, we're fighting each other. We're still fighting each other, and there's different parts of the world, and we have sometimes that little bubble. And if you were just to travel outside of your bubble, sometimes you could see a lot more and get a different perspective about mindset, if that makes sense.
Yeah. Yeah, and it's so easy to find yourself adopting a certain level of self-entitlement. It can, I was shopping in Trader Joe's the other day before Thanksgiving, and there was an item in a refrigerated case that I wanted, but there was a person standing there in front of it, seemingly doing nothing but standing there in front of it, thinking about checking their shopping list or whatever. And I was waiting, and they didn't acknowledge me, and I started getting a little annoyed. But I didn't. But ultimately, I said, "Oh, excuse me, could I please get reach in and get such and such?" But just as often, I've seen people do, just reach in without saying a word and almost shoving you aside because that they're on a mission. And it's just an example. It's a little example of self-entitlement where it's all about me. I need to get that item, and I want to get out of the store right away. Where if we just take a breath and say, "Excuse me, would you mind if I reach in front of you for this?" And it makes all the difference in the world.
Is there any entitlements that you think we are allowed or we should not feel guilty about?
I'm entitled to be treated fairly, equitably, regardless of my gender, my age, my race, my religion. Yes, those are entitlements.
I would agree with that. Treat each other like a human being.
Yeah, I don't want to be mansplained. I don't, and I will call you out on it whether you like it or not. Um, I want to be paid the same as uh, the guy that's doing the same job at the next desk. It's, I'll tell you, and it still happens today. Oh, we have to pay the guy more because he has a family to support. Do you know how galling that is and upsetting that is for a single mother to be told that?
It would be
Who's
pretty.
the sole
I would
support of
imagine.
her family?
I couldn't imagine, but I would. If I were to imagine, it would be pretty infuriating.
Exactly. But that goes on every day. It still goes on every day. So yes, there are basic human rights to which we are all entitled. Does everybody get those? No. This is our quest to make sure that everyone is seen and honored and respected and treated equitably.
Well, before we finish up with the last question, how can people find you?
Oh, that's easy. Uh, I'm the same everywhere. I'm Lydia Sugarman on Facebook, on LinkedIn. Twitter is LK Sugarman. The K is for my middle name, Kidwell. My business website is Venntive. That's V as in Victor, ENN as in Nancy, TIVE.com. That's a complete CRM SaaS platform with everything you need to run your business. They're enterprise level tools for small and medium businesses. And then I have a fun startup that is launching this week called Girl Groove, and it's a different take on online dating because it's all about online dating, online encounters, and with no strings attached. And that's exactly the way it's spelled exactly the way it is, GIRLGROOVE.com, Girl Groove. And yes, it's for guys too. We definitely want guys there.
And last question, and that by the way, all those links we put in the description box below. The last question
Awesome.
I have is, how can, whether you're a woman or a man or whatever you are out there, how can you start today making more impact in the lives of others in your business today?
Can you, that's kind of general.
Well,
How can I make more impact?
How can you,
Oh,
what is one thing or that you could make a
you know,
habit or
got
that
it.
making an impact? Yes.
You know what? It's real. So it's so easy to become cynical or critical or jaded and communicate that, and come from that perspective when you're engaging with people online, because it's easy. It's from a distance. If you just take a breath and think about, is this what I would say to this person if I was standing across from them having a conversation? I think, if you engage online the way that you would engage in person, and hopefully that, again, is with consideration and respect and kindness and just, good old-fashioned good manners, then I think that could make a huge difference. And remember to make it about the other person, not about yourself. There's so many profiles on LinkedIn where right under the name it says, I do this and I do that. Well, I don't know you, so I may not really care what you do. I care about what you can do for me. That sounds kind of selfish and self-entitled again, but if you want to help someone, you state a problem and a solution.
Be in service to others.
Exactly.
Lydia, thank you so much for coming on.
Thank you for having me, Peter. This was great. And what a great conversation during this Thanksgiving holiday.
Yes. Thank you very much, listeners. Everything will be in the description box below.